Hey dudes, Silvite Soltis here, and today I'm happy to continue my tips and tricks series with another dungeoneering guide. As always, if you like what you see here, then subscribe and leave a comment down below letting me know. Are you the type of person who likes to get up close and personal in your conflicts, but doesn't necessarily want to get smacked around? Does the idea of wildly flailing your weapons around appeal to you? Does the thought of getting a Wind Fury totem make you weirdly excited? Well then, you're probably a melee DPS at heart. So, grab your blades and drink up that Winterfall firewater, because today, we're going to discuss my tips and tricks for playing a melee DPS in WoW Classic Dungeons. Let's get right into it. As with every class, there are a few things that you should prepare before you step into any dungeon. First and foremost, you're going to want to have some general add-ons to make your dungeon runs easier. DPS and threat meters, such as Recount, Details, or Threat Classic 2, are a good place to start. But you'll probably also want to find a swing timer, such as Weapon Swing Timer, and an enemy cast bar add-on, such as Gnosis, as well. Finally, Deadly Boss Mods is incredibly useful for all players, as it includes useful timers for boss mechanics, both in dungeons and raids. In general, these add-ons will help you out a lot. If you have anything in particular that you need to do in the dungeon you're heading to, make it known before starting. Working on a quest? Tell the group. Aiming for a specific drop? Let them know. You can avoid a lot of problems and drama later if you let everyone in your group know what you need there. Likewise, ask if anyone else is looking for or to do something specific in the dungeon, as it's common courtesy to repay the favor. Alrighty, now you're in the dungeon. What should you do now? Well, for starters, you should make sure you know what marks or kill targets you should be looking for. While the tank is typically the one marking and pulling, and the first target is usually marked Skull, while the second is X, sometimes dungeons are run differently. So make sure you know what to expect when you start. Similarly, you should identify whether you have a sap, stun, or off-tanking target, depending on your class, of course. Look guys, tanking isn't easy. It involves carefully attacking several mobs at the same time, and making sure none of them start running toward other party members. So, as a DPS, it's super important to remember that no matter what this tank is currently targeting, you should always attack the current kill target. If, for example, the kill order is Skull X and then unmarked, you should stay off the X until Skull has fallen. When DPS, whether it be ranged or melee, starts attacking the wrong target, you end up taking longer to kill all of the mobs in a pack, meaning there's more healing needed on the party, and thus slower progress overall, as the healer will have to drink. What's more, the tank is likely working on building threat on the next kill targets while you all should be killing the current target. So, if you aren't careful, you can end up messing up the entire threat rotation in a pack. So, to put it bluntly, as long as you have a clear kill order, you should be killing the current kill target. One of the greatest advantages to doing dungeons as a melee class is the combination of two things: the close proximity of the mobs your tank is holding, and your ability to cleave. Most, if not all, melee classes have some sort of multi-target ability. Whirlwind for warriors, Magma Totem for shamans, and Blade Flurry for rogues, to name a few. And while you should focus down the current kill target, it's definitely a good idea to utilize cleave damage to burn down packs of mobs quickly. So yeah, cleave is your friend in dungeons. However, do be mindful of any crowd control abilities that are being used. You wouldn't want to wipe the group by popping a sheep early, would you? I've mentioned this many times before, but it bears repeating for anyone planning to run dungeons. Watch out for runners. When some enemies, typically humanoids, get low on health, they may try to flee. If left unchecked, these runners can pull additional packs of mobs, which can lead to a horrible wipe. As a melee DPS, you typically can't risk chasing them all over the place. However, you do have other ways in which you can help take them out. Stuns, slows, and quick execute abilities can help destroy these dangerous enemies before they cause any problems. So make sure to keep your eyes peeled when your foes get low on HP. One of the most important tasks that melee DPS have in dungeons is interrupting dangerous spell casts. Whether it's a large AoE spell such as a Flame Strike, or an extremely common healing ability, your biggest priority as melee should be to make sure that this spell does not go off. So rogues, kick that enemy. Warriors, smash that pummel. Shamans, use Earth Shock. And everyone else, just hope that someone else has an interrupt, I guess. Next up is a very simple tip that everyone in any dungeon should keep in mind. Be careful not to accidentally pull additional mobs or packs. All too often when running a dungeon, one of the DPSers will back into or just run a bit too close by a pack of mobs. If this happens when the tank or healer is focused on something else, such as marking the next pack or drinking, it can lead to a disaster. As such, you need to be mindful of where the enemies are, including patrols. Be careful not to fat ass it, and you should be golden. Occasionally, enemy mobs cast harmful abilities on you and your party, as well as buffs on themselves. And while not every melee class has abilities to counter such buffs and debuffs, paladins and shamans do. So, if you're playing one of those classes and are able to dispel or purge, help the group out by doing so. Everyone will appreciate it. Everybody makes mistakes, and while you could pretend that you have no idea why something went wrong, it's usually appreciated a lot more by party members when you own up to your mistakes. If a runner got away because you moved to the next kill target too early, take the blame. It shows that you're capable of recognizing and fixing your own issues, which is a very positive characteristic to have, even outside of Azeroth. What's more, you'll be less likely to repeat the mistake going forward if you are able to honestly admit that something was your fault when it happens, thus growing into a better player overall. So yeah, own up to your mistakes if you mess up. When an item with hit that you can equip drops, need it. Unless you already have an item for the same slot with plus hit that is equivalent or better, it can't hurt to have more options. Though it may not be necessary to do decently well in dungeons, plus hit is the most valuable stat for every DPS class in the game. As a melee DPS, you want your weapons and abilities to hit enemies as often as possible, since any misses that occur are completely lost damage. And even if you manage to reach the hit cap, you'll still want to mix and match pieces as you obtain better gear for various slots through whatever means you use. As an example, my Enhancement Shaman has 4 additional plus hit items in his bank, including 2 tarnished rings from the Dire Maul North tribute chest, a helm, and some shoulders from a quest. Though I'm not using these at the moment, I hold on to them just in case I get a wrist or trinket upgrade. And in the months since I've capped him, I've never gone back below the hit cap no matter what new gear I obtain, meaning higher DPS in all of my dungeons. Hoard that plus hit. No matter what melee class you're playing, you're bound to have some niche abilities and cooldowns that you can make good use of. So, use them. Rogues, use Distract on patrol that's about to get out of range to keep it close while your healer drinks. Warriors, slap on a shield, AoE taunt, and pop shield wall if the tank goes down. Shamans, purge enemy buffs like I mentioned before. And paladins, use Divine Intervention on the priest when your group is about to wipe. It might seem like common sense to many of you, but you'd be surprised at how many players forget what tools they have at their disposal. Similarly, don't forget that you've got a plethora of DPS cooldowns at your disposal as well. You don't need to save everything for the boss fights, especially since many of the dungeon trash packs are harder than the bosses themselves. Make good use of your trinkets, burst cooldowns, and more to make your dungeon runs smoother and more enjoyable for everyone. Okay, the final boss is slain and your goals have been met. Well, now what? As always, you should add the tank and healer to your friends list if they were good. These roles are always in high demand, so it's usually beneficial to have a few people you can ask for help on the fly. Of course, mention that you added them on your friends list so that they can expect to hear from you in the future as well. And don't wait for months before inviting them to another group, as they'll probably forget all about you by then. After all, even if they only run a dungeon once a week, that's 3 different DPS to remember every time, and you're really just a drop in the bucket at that point. So yeah, note them down and be ready to invite them to things very soon. Finally, just like I advise in every one of these guides, you should reflect on your DPS and dungeon performance when you complete the dungeon. Obviously, you can look at recount and try to play better, but don't forget that you can also ask the other group members how you did at the end of the run, which is especially useful if they also play your class as a main or an alt. As a melee DPS though, I found that getting feedback from others is really hit or miss, so be mindful of that, and try to catch your own mistakes. No matter how you get the feedback, it's just as important to act on it, so make adjustments as soon as you notice an issue or an area for improvement. Then try them out in the next run. Experiment with new trinkets, keybinds, and ability ranks, and then reflect again after the next dungeon. There's always room for growth in the DPS world. So, there you have it. 14 tips and tricks for dungeoneering as a melee DPS in World of Warcraft Classic. Overall, melee gets a bit of a bad rap for being a bit dumb and standing in bad things like fire, but that just means that you can shine all that much brighter. So long as you're observant, know your class's abilities, and have enough hit to actually land some blows, you should do well in those dungeons. Anyway, that's it for today. If you liked this guide or found it useful, then subscribe and leave a comment down below. Follow me over on Twitter for updates as well, and consider checking out my blogs over on Blogspot, as that's where all of these guides originate. Finally, if there's any particular Classic or Burning Crusade content or guides you'd like to see in the future, let me know in a comment down below as well, as I love getting suggestions from viewers like you. In any case, thanks for watching, have an awesome day, and as always, take it easy.